President of the Barbados Economic Society, Shane Lowe, has weighed in on the recent central bank review of Barbados' economy for 2017, noting that it actually painted a very similar picture to the 2016 economic review. Speaking to the Business Report, he says with news that the foreign reserves reached the level of just 6.6 weeks of imports at the end of last year, more challenges may lie ahead this year.
The reserves will likely come under pressure again in 2018. Crude oil prices are now over 20% higher than they were this time 1 year ago, while record tourist arrivals in 2017 only generated an additional 2% in tourist spending. Further, with major debt payments due again this year and in 2019, the negative gap between foreign exchange inflows and outflows will likely persist for the foreseeable future.
The BES president adds that government will need to implement additional measures to further reduce the fiscal deficit to levels where annual taxes can at least cover government's operating expenses.
While government has collected more revenue thus far this fiscal year from additional and higher taxes, the central bank's projection for weak growth in 2018 may continue to constrain substantial growth in revenues during 2018-19. Further, government has already cut capital expenditure by 29% so far this fiscal year to the lowest level since 2014 and will likely need to increase spending in this area to facilitate investment in much-needed upgrades to infrastructure. This means that much of the burden of adjustment will fall on current expenditures, particularly transfers to public institutions, which have increased by 8% so far for the fiscal year.
More than 200 minority shareholders in Cable and Wireless Barbados will have their day in court on March 7th as their class action suit against Cable and Wireless West Indies continues. One of the minority shareholders leading the group, Ricky Went, says they are still confident despite a setback last month when the High Court lifted an injunction that restrained the company from cancelling the shares of the minority shareholders and delisting the company from the Barbados Stock Exchange.
We started with 5 persons on board in meetings. We then got to, by the time we filed the class action suit, there were 163, and we're over 200 people and climbing. And we expect that the vast majority of shareholders will come on board because we have to stand up for rights. You have to understand this, that at the moment, all the large pension schemes, where do they put their investments in to diversify their portfolio? There are not too many growth opportunities. And one like telecoms, that a growth area, this would mean that none of the large pension funds that look after all of our youth, even the national insurance, would not be able to have those kind of opportunities.
In July last year, Cable and Wireless Barbados Limited announced that it received a proposal from Cable and Wireless West Indies Limited to acquire all issued and outstanding common shares of Cable and Wireless Barbados that it does not already own by way of an amalgamation. That move sparked the subsequent court action by minority shareholders of Cable and Wireless Barbados. All right, time now to take a look at how stocks traded on selected exchanges across the region.
In Jamaica, Wisynco Group Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with 561,023 shares. They were followed by Cable and Wireless Jamaica Limited and Victoria Mutual Investments Limited ordinary shares. In Trinidad, Grace Kennedy Limited led the day's trades with 84,615 shares, changing hands at a value of $296,152.50. They were followed by Massey Holdings Limited and First Citizens Bank Limited. And here at home, First Caribbean International Bank was the volume leader with 5,000 shares, trading hands at a value of $2.85 each. They were followed by Fortress Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund and Goddard Enterprises Limited.